Hey everyone, Lotus Prince here. It is time for our June 2025 Q&A. You have provided me with questions and hopefully I can provide you with adequate answers. Why don't we just jump right into it? We have a bunch starting with Gaze21X. Any interesting reads you had lately? Yeah, I've had a few that were lent to me from a friend. I had Blind Sight and Echoproxia. Those books kind of relate to each other regarding the main thing that's happening. That's like some hard sci-fi regarding all sorts of crazy non-existent future tech, where in Blind Sight people are going out into space and investigating a possible alien situation, and back on Earth in Echoproxia there's this whole existential discussion sort of on free will versus not, consciousness versus not, that kind of thing. What's happening on Earth, what's happening in space, and the books complement each other very well. And I also recently finished reading Project Hail Mary. That's the one by the guy who did The Martian. That one was adapted into a hit movie. Project Hail Mary is a whole different story, but it also involves space and figuring out what to do with a potential crisis. It's one of those things where I really can't go too deeply even into the premise, because a lot of that book is unfolding information and discovering a little more as you go, but it's very exciting. Manny Stovall has a few questions. What do you think of the Soul Calibur games? I like them. They're one of the few fighting game series that I'll be willing to buy. I enjoy playing Soul Calibur. I like the characters and the weapon stuff, and most of the time the story mode. I felt that 5 dropped the ball on that one. I still gotta play 6 though. Question 2. What do you think of these new games that are coming out? Well, I don't, because they're not out. But Resident Evil 9, cool that it's happening. I got a long way to go before I get there. Silent Hill F, looks interesting. I'm actively avoiding trailers because I plan to play it. Dying Light, The Beast, don't care. Question number 3. What is one moment from a movie or TV show that has stuck with you and why? That's honestly hard for me to think of, because there are a lot of cool things, but it's difficult for me to say that moment burns into my brain. I mean, I can think of probably some funny bits from The Simpsons or good parts from Game of Thrones or whatever. There were some really good quotes. Yeah, movie or TV show. I don't know. This is such a little thing, but I love that joke in The Simpsons where you see Homer and Krusty the Clown standing next to each other, and Homer is dressed as Krusty, and they look literally identical. And the one Mafia guy goes, "I'm seeing double here. 4 Krusties." I freaking love that joke. It's one of my favorite jokes in The Simpsons. Otherwise, for more serious stuff, I don't know. Game of Thrones definitely had its moments, especially in the early seasons. Dexter Season 4, the villain was absolutely terrifying in that one. Particular moments, though, I don't know, it's always difficult to come up with them on the fly. Like, I would know them when I see them, I guess, but I don't know. Thakafan, what kind of game endings do you prefer? Tragic, uplifting, modular? That probably depends on the game I'm playing. I do like a nice happy ending that wraps things up, but if I'm playing something like Corpse Party, on one hand, I would like a pleasant ending, but on the other hand, you gotta earn it. And for a horror game where everything is dour, I don't know how well that would fit unless you really worked to get to it. So, I don't know, as weak as this sounds, I might go with an ending that fits the kind of game I'm playing, based on how the plot progression goes, or how the persistent mood is. And General Ledger says, to piggyback off of that question, what video game ending got the biggest reaction out of you when you first experienced it? I know one of the ones that really stuck with me was the ending for the first The Last of Us, because it was so just kind of awkward and uncomfortable, and you're like, oh, that was the ending, and it really just kind of settled with you. I quite liked how that one was handled. I wasn't expecting an absolutely miserable ending or an absolutely happy ending, but the way they did it was very like, wow, you could just stop the story here. I ended up liking The Last of Us 2, but The Last of Us One's ending felt like they could have just stopped there with just the weird social discomfort. It was a very interesting way of handling it. And other question, has any video game sparked an interest in another hobby? Not to my knowledge. Not really. Neon Wave 1. Was there ever a game that was too controversial or disturbing, or had a controversial or disturbing scene that made you decide not to do an LP or stream of it, even if you put a warning text? Yeah, I could think of two. One that I actually tried, and one that I didn't. One of them, especially on Patreon, people might remember this, but I tried streaming Town of Light, because it was a sort of, I don't know if underground is the right word, but it's not one of the more talked about discomfort horror experiences. I was like, I'll give that a shot. Turned out to be a walking simulator. The idea was that you're walking through an asylum that your character had been in as a child, and now the place is long abandoned, your character's an adult, and you're just going through this empty husk of a building. Man, I was here. Can you believe it? And you're going through memories. And one of the flashback memories was just unambiguous sexual assaults, and I was just like, you know what? Maybe this is where the stream stops. So maybe I should look up why a game is rated M for mature before I put it on live stream. Let's Play, well, I could edit in post, but live stream, nope. And even Let's Play for that particular scene, probably not. The other one I think would be Hogwarts Legacy. I hear it's a good game, don't care. Not that it's disturbing, but it's certainly controversial. With Deadly Premonition 2 now over, do you think we'll ever get another game like it, where it's so bad it's good? Or do you know of an already existing one that might be just as enjoyable? There are always going to be games with jank, not everything is a AAA experience. Deadly Premonition, I wouldn't even say so bad it's good, I would say it's good despite how awkwardly it plays, and how awkwardly the game runs. It's generally a pretty good game, although 2 has a lot of back and forth, even with the main plot. 1 had a fair share of that for the side quests, but I think if you just wanted to play the game, you could just kind of go. At least 2 has the fast travel system, though. 1 did, but you got it way later. Or maybe that was just summoning a car. Either way. Fred T. 1983. What happened to the yearly picking up chicks? Well, yeah, that's because one of my relatives works at a school where they do that thing where, you know, it's an elementary school where they get the eggs and they hatch them, and oh, we got little chicks in the classroom, wow. I haven't had as much opportunity with that, with the pandemic and the aftermath of that. Still keeping up with the board games? I know it's way too much work to film or set up, but they were fun videos. Yeah, I kind of would like to do more of those, but they're a real pain to do with one hand, because the other one's holding the camera. Even with a tripod, I still have to futz around with things. I could maybe give it a shot, but it's just awkward to do. Steel Ball Run is taking extra long, but mainly because they despised Netflix and asked David Production to do it again. Good. Netflix released JoJo Part 6 in 2 halves, not weekly, so it kind of turned JoJo into content. I wasn't a fan of that. On one hand, you want to binge it, and on the other hand, once you do, you're like, oh, that's it. It's been a couple days and I did all of it. It feels not earned, and it took way the hell too long to come out on Blu-ray. Will it live up to number 1 and number 2 in the series with Stardust Crusaders for most people? I hope so. Steel Ball Run is awesome. It's one of my favorite parts in JoJo. It's Cannonball Run. It's a race across the U.S. on horseback. It's exciting. And it's got crazy powers stuff. The villain's interesting. The villain has one of those Yoshikage Kira moments where everything stops and it just gets really suspenseful and scary for a second. Where he's like, I'm coming in that room, and you're like, oh my god, let this scene end. Buckers107. Have you ever tried any food that has been replicated from video games, films, TV shows, fiction, novels, manga? Not to my knowledge. What do you think of the Monkey Island games? This is probably going to get me flack. They're very well done, they're very well made, but I'm not really that into them. I did play through the whole series. Not on my channel, but I went through the games. They're good at what they do, but part of it is that I grew up with King's Quest, so I have more of a bias toward it, and maybe for that reason, part of it is that I'm just not a big fan of Guybrush Threepwood. I liked him in the first game, where he's just some young kid. I'm going to become a pirate one day. Oh, there's a challenge. I'll be clever and work my way around it. And that's interesting. But as you go through game after game, he still cheats his way through everything, and he's not a great guy. Like, he's not a villain. And that's one of his better qualities. He's a clever, not bad enough to be a real problem kind of guy. I'm not entirely on board with that. In King's Quest, those games are designed so you could soft lock a lot. It really is very annoying, and LucasArts games are very conspicuously designed to not do that, which is good, but your characters try to genuinely do the right thing at all times in the King's Quest games. And also, even though the LucasArts games are not going to just ruin your playthrough because you chose incorrectly, they still do fall into the Sierra problem of running into a puzzle and clicking everything on everything until something works. Like the famous pulley puzzle in the original Monkey Island. If you examine your rubber chicken, there's just a pulley on it. That's how you get across the zip line. It's very LOL random, which makes it all the more difficult to solve puzzles, because, like, who the hell was going to think about that? I guess the lesson is to examine all your inventory. Fair enough. But as a puzzle, that's just bananas. And then, why is a raven like a writing desk? That's from Alice in Wonderland. I think the idea is that it's supposed to not have an answer. It's just a nonsense thing, because a lot of Alice is nonsense. But someone had come up with an answer. Both hold black-tipped quills that bestow upon them the power of flight with proper motion and purpose of will. That sounds like someone really, really tried to make this work. Enter Grants 2580. You reply to as many comments as you can, but you don't like, dislike, or pin them. Is that preventing favoritism? Maybe. But it's one of those things, I probably should get on that, but I just don't tend to do that. Even for YouTube videos I watch, I'm like, oh, I like this video. I'll leave a comment, but I don't tend to like or dislike or whatever. I just never really got into that. Same with Facebook, liking posts. You'll know I liked your post if I responded to it positively. You know, that kind of thing. I just never got into the habit. Elemental Hero Joe. Have you ever experienced burnout from a hobby? I don't know about full-on burnout, but I'll tell you, I like playing video games, but the editing process is just tedious. I had to edit all of Elden Ring, you know? Even if it ended up that I didn't actually do edits, I still had to sit through the whole thing in an editing mindset. It was entertaining watching my own playthrough again, but do I cut this? No, we're still good. Okay, that part I should cut, and I'm just doing that for the entire thing. So I'm doing the whole game twice. What genre of books do you enjoy? I generally like sci-fi fantasy, but I've really come to enjoy a lot of Pearl Buck's work, which is historical fiction. I don't know if I would still say I like historical fiction as a rule, but I certainly like that historical fiction. Do you cook? If so, what is your favorite dish to make? I am a freaking amateur, man. I can heat up pasta. A child could do that. You wait for the water to bubble a bunch and you stir it when there's pasta in it. Even I could pull that off. Apologies if I mispronounced this. Talai? Are there any game series that you're looking forward to with your upcoming picks? Yeah, probably. There's a bunch of Souls-likes I like to catch up on. There's Lies of P and Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, and there's Night Rain as well. But man, I can only do so much at once. Do you have any advice for someone that likes streaming, but is having trouble finding the right audience with eclectic games choices? Yeah, welcome to my life. I mean, unless you're doing this for your job, I assume that at some point the people will come to you. Do what you enjoy because you enjoy it. If you turn it into work, then it becomes less fun. Wolfmoon23. When you're recording Let's Plays, do you usually go with your first take to keep your reactions genuine, or do you sometimes need to re-record certain parts for technical or pacing reasons? Yeah, both, really. I do try to get my first reaction in there, but if there is something, like it's taking forever, or whoops, I talked over a cutscene or whatever, then I might have to do a second take or cut the audio on the first one or something like that. So yeah, I've always been curious about how much of what we see is spontaneous versus planned. Most of it is spontaneous. I don't tend to say, aha, look, here comes the thing. Even if I'm using a walkthrough and I know what I'm getting into, I still haven't actually seen it before if it's a new game, so I can at least react to that. But if it's a game that I've played before, like Streets of Rage or something, I haven't played it in decades, so there's that level of enjoyment, but I pretty much know what's coming and try to make it enjoyable rather than, level 2 boss, because that just isn't as fun, I don't think. After running the channel for so long, how has your relationship with gaming changed? Has making content ever affected the way you enjoy games, positively or negatively? Well, it does have me play things that I might not otherwise have gotten to. That's quite nice. Or even things I haven't heard of sometimes with Patreon requests. I like that. But it also makes me put off games that I want to play now, because, oh, what if I put them on the channel? So I'll have to wait to put them up, and when I do, I'm recording them in half-hour chunks, so it slows down some of what I might have otherwise gone through faster. If one of your viewers were developing a game and wanted to include a character based on you, either visually or using your voice, what kind of personality or role do you think would best represent you? I really don't know. I like the idea of being some NPC that talks to you in a town or something, or for a bigger role. I don't even know what the bigger role would be. Like, I don't know, just someone drop, like, it wouldn't even be a bigger role, just dropping random trivia or something. I don't even know. Groovy George 6375. If you had a dinner party and you're inviting 3 people, but they have to be someone famous, someone dead who can also be famous, and someone you know, who would you pick? I don't tend to do stuff like this. Like, I tend to be like, well, I don't care, it's not happening. But, I don't know, assuming we could overcome the language barrier, I would like to talk to Hirohiko Araki, the creator of JoJo. Partly because I'm a big JoJo fan, but also partly because I'm enough of a fan to have read the little back author blurbs in a bunch of his manga that's been localized in the West. And one of his things he said was he's not a big fan of when people go, oh my god, oh it's you, whoa, oh gee golly, can I have your autograph? And he wishes that people would treat him more like just a person. And I think I would be better at doing that. Like, I'd probably direct the conversation to JoJo, which might be bothersome enough, but I don't flip out when I'm getting celebrities' autographs at a convention or something like that. I'm just like, hey, good afternoon. Someone dead who can also be famous. That one I am less sure of. Because, like, it's, like, too broad. Like, I don't know anybody dead. I don't even know. Maybe, I mean, I'm going in the same line here, but maybe Kentaro Miura. I would love to know where Berserk was going to go. Someone you know, one of my friends. Easy. Alyssa Milano. What is the most expensive PlayStation 2 game you own? I think I might have had this one before, but that's an easy one. I have Kuon, which was utterly worthless when I bought it, and now it's one of the most expensive PS2 games because it's PS2 horror, it's FromSoft, it's, I think, pretty low print, so PS2 horror and FromSoft would have counted against it back then, but they're both in its favor now. JP the Orange Lantern, what's something you think someone who is looking to get into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure should be aware of before starting the books or the anime? Part 1 is very different from every other part. As crazy as it gets, it's still probably the most grounded. It's British guys having weird powers fighting vampires in, what, 19th century England? It definitely has difference. Also, Episode 1 is just the main character getting bullied almost the entire time, and in the manga, it's like 6 or 7 chapters. People who already knew Araki's work, he had written like Bao and a bunch of other manga that the West just didn't get, they were going through JoJo and they were like, okay, look, I know your writing is good, but is this going to stop anytime soon? I'm just watching the main character just get bullied for months, or like a month and a half. Can we hurry this up? The anime did hurry it up, but it's still an uncomfortable first episode. Violet N7I1K. Will you ever let non-patrons choose a Let's Play? Maybe. Like, I generally try keeping that to myself, but I have put things up to a vote once. Playthrough 100 was Skies of Arcadia or Valkyria Chronicles. I put that one up to I think it was a straw poll. I did that once. Maybe I'll do that again. Are there any horror games that got teased but disappointed you because they never came out? I don't tend to know about a lot of stuff like that, although I can say an interesting alternate universe thing would have been old Resident Evil 4, where it's more straight horror than action horror, and it had the Hookman, a creepy guy in a spooky haunted house. What was that? I don't know. I mean, I love Resident Evil 4. But what was that going to be? Connor OD451. What's the most satisfying weapon or method of attack you've ever experienced in a game? That's tough. Even as cool as weapons are, you want to feel that impact when you get something. Sniper rifles tend to be pretty good at that kind of thing. But this almost doesn't count, but I really enjoy the parrying in both Lies of P and Inotria. Lies of P, you get that good metal clang sound, and you really feel like, bam, like I rejected that guy's attack. And in Inotria, it's almost musical, because you hear different pitches of ringing metal, like ding, 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 like when you parry it right. So it's also quite satisfying, because you could have the coolest weapon in the world, but if you don't feel the impact of it, then it just feels like something's missing. Like, take Doom 3, for example. There's a bunch of really awesome weapons in that game, but the sound design, when you get hit, or when you fire a gun, it's like, and it doesn't really feel like, bam, like rip and tear, like Doom 26 or Doom Eternal does. Maybe Dark Ages as well, I haven't played that one yet, but in the more modern Dooms, 2016 and Eternal, you really feel like you are the toughest guy around with your whole arsenal. What are your thoughts on AI-generated assets in games? Do you think it's only a matter of time before mainstream titles are full of AI-generated art, dialogue, etc., or will genuine creativity still prevail? Well, genuine creativity will prevail. It's called the indie scene. I predict that the bigger companies will try it, but it's just going to end up being the next version of procedural generation, where everything is kind of samey, or just, in AI's case, just regurgitated generic garbage that's been curated to be a little less generic garbage. Now, sometimes procedural generation really is good, like in roguelites or something like that, but I remember Starfield got some crap because it was made by a company who crafted every single dungeon in the Elder Scrolls series, and then Starfield was like, I don't know, this template, I guess, and it doesn't quite feel right, so AI would be that but worse. Now, as for what my thoughts are on AI-generated assets in games, bad. It's plagiarism and theft, not to mention bad for the environment, not to mention just bad for games. What's the coolest AI-generated thing I've seen in the game so far? That one guy who made the one level in Quake, which looked janky and weird. Also, you could just play Quake. It's a 30-year-old game and you couldn't get that right? Like, oh yeah, no, that'll be fine. Anthony Cooper 5335. Seeing that Resident Evil 9 Requiem just released the trailer, will be going back to an abandoned Raccoon City to play as Alyssa Ashcroft's daughter, Grace Ashcroft, an FBI technical analyst. Yeah, isn't she the daughter of someone from, like, Outbreak? That's crazy. I was wondering what kind of gameplay will they introduce? I don't know if they're going to introduce anything. I mean, I don't think they're going to go back to full-on isometric, but or not isometric, fixed camera angle, but I don't know. Like, I wonder if they'll go back to third person. Or no, didn't they say there'd be a third and first person version of the game? So there's that. But kind of gameplay, I don't know. I'm assuming the combat's still going to work. I'm assuming it's going to be like Resident Evil 2 and 4 remakes combat. It's not going to be like 45 degrees or whatever. I'm hoping they take it more in a horror direction, though, than action horror. Because Resident Evil 7 was horror, but it's first person, so it definitely felt different. And Resident Evil 8 was kind of like first person Resident Evil 4, wasn't it? It's just like an action game that, yeah, it looks like a horror game, and it sort of is, but it's more about just being fun. And I know video games should be fun, but I didn't really get a sense of dread from what I've seen of 8. It looks fun as hell, but I don't know if I'm like, oh, I can't go in there, it's too scary. T-Rex asks, can you tell us a bit about your D&D adventures, such as favorite characters you've created and what you liked about them, or some memorable moments from your campaigns? Well, I've only made a couple of characters, I guess, outside of one-shot stuff. One-shot stuff, I don't know, I have a Dhampir who's a fighter. I kind of like him just because of his Dhampir abilities, because it's basically, I think it's a half vampire, so he doesn't breathe. So if he starts drowning, no he doesn't, because he doesn't breathe. He could walk on walls, he could just do it. But the primary character I play is a class that I don't think exists anymore in 5th edition, but it's the swashbuckler subclass of the, whatever the bigger class is called, thief, rogue, I think it's rogue. I think a thief might also be a subclass, but I'm a swashbuckler, so he is a very finesse-based character, dual wields rapiers, does insane sneak attack damage because he's level 14 at this point, but he has some interesting abilities that you get from leveling up enough. One of my favorites is evasion, where, how does this work? It's superior dexterity saving throws. Normally, if you are making a dexterity saving throw for damage, if you pass, you take half damage, and if you fail, you take full damage. But now that I'm past whatever level it was, level 7, I think, if I pass, I take no damage, and if I fail, I take half. So we had a pretty amusing situation where our characters were fighting a Baelor. It's totally not a Balrog from Lord of the Rings. It's a very high-level demon, and our Twilight Cleric got an insane good roll because he was summoning a celestial being to help us in our fight, and it bit the Baelor and actually successfully hit him with sleep. That should not have worked, but it did. So our entire party just gathered around him while he was unconscious and did simultaneous auto crit attacks because he was unconscious. We annihilated him. But what we did not expect is that when he dies, he violently explodes. So everybody took some pretty high amount of damage, like 40 or something, and I took none because I rolled well. What's pretty nice is that my character, I think past level 13, has a feat where if I have to roll for something that I have proficiency in, if I roll less than a 10, then I rolled a 10, plus whatever modifier. So there are certain rolls that it's pretty difficult for me to fail, as long as I'm not fighting something super high level or dealing with a super high level puzzle or whatever, because some of my modifiers are pretty crazy. I have plus, I think, 7 in Persuasion and Deception. Intelligence is ironically my guy's dump stat, but I really pushed Persuasion and Deception, so I'm a surprisingly good talker anyway. It's been quite fun. Our main adventure is that we've been in the first level of Hell, Avernus, and the local archdevil, who was an angel, has been overthrown. We're trying to rehabilitate her and overthrow the current archdevil and hopefully have him replaced by somebody else. And it's been a whole thing with a lot of really fun side things and mini steps on the way toward our destination. I think we're finally coming to a close, but it's been very, very exciting. And with your attention to detail, especially where language is concerned, do you ever get requests to proofread while games are still in development? If I'd have been a game dev, you'd be my first call. First of all, thank you. Second of all, actually, yes. It's been from a person who's actually done a couple of Patreon requests on my channel, Stranga Games. He's actually commissioned me to proofread some of his games he's created. So he's done some indie stuff for Steam. So I just got basically, I don't even know what you call it, but I mean, it's not like I was playing the game and picking out what's happening in the text boxes or anything. Sometimes people question why a voice line is delivered so awkwardly in this old game, or how did you get such a spelling or grammar thing wrong? Don't you know what this was supposed to refer to if it's a name or something like that? But then you actually do the job. It's just, here's every sentence I have in the game, or every text box I have in the game, in order but out of context. So it's basically a database of words. So if there is an inconsistency, like a name is spelled this way here and that way there, I have to just remember that. If I were playing the game, it would be incredibly obvious because I'm following the plot, but here it's just words and I can't see the background. I may or may not know who's talking depending on how the thing is written and stuff like that. So even though I didn't have like a visual novel's level of things to read, it still is a lot to do, so I get it. But there you go. It actually has happened. I've done it a couple of times for some small titles, but it's pretty cool. Audie Quinn, have you ever considered using a catchy start to your videos, like waving to the camera and saying, "Hey all, Lotus here"? The funny thing is I kind of do. I don't know how catchy it is. "Hey everyone, Lotus Prince here." Whoa, did that not rock you to your core? Are you not entertained? Or having a second you pop in. You have to say, "Hey, I'm Lotus," and then a second one pop in, "I'm not so Prince," before both saying, "And we are Lotus Prince." That's an original idea. I should use that. It's clever because no one's done it before. Or I could do the thing that, oh god, I don't even know if people still do it. But that frequent camera cut thing. "Hey guys, it's another video. Oh, on today's video, boy, I sure have something cool for you to look at. Man, check this out. Sure is awesome." And it's just like, can you not make it through one sentence before having to check your lines? Or maybe the cuts are just because it's a little bit wackier than a still thing. I get that much, but it just makes it look like every single take you have is a messed up take. And the other question, if someone ever shouted to you, "Oh my god, LP, a bomb," how would you respond? I would say, I know that line from Deus Ex. It's very funny. And they'd be like, "No, I'm serious. There's a bomb." And I'd be like, "Quit while you're ahead, buddy." So there we have it. Those are the questions that you have sent me. Thank you very much for these. I hope that I have answered them adequately. And I look forward to doing another one of these somewhere down the line. I tend to do these about every 6 months, 5-6 months. They're just kind of fun, and it gives the opportunity for a little bit of back and forth. But once again, thank you very much for this and for all of your support. I look forward to also announcing the next game I'm going to be playing, so look out for that. We're going back to horror, baby, so we'll see what direction that goes in. But until next time, everyone.